John Kennedy had faced senators, CEOs, even presidents, but nothing prepared him for the sharp mind of a teenage girl with a reported IQ above 200. It all began in a crowded hall at a global innovation summit in Washington, where world leaders, scientists, and thinkers had gathered. The buzz in the room wasn't about the seasoned politicians or famous entrepreneurs. It was about the 17-year-old Chinese prodigy named Mai Lin, who had stunned the world with her groundbreaking work in artificial intelligence and sustainable energy. As Mai Lin took the stage, the crowd hushed. She spoke with confidence, her words flowing in perfect English. She explained complex equations like they were everyday recipes, breaking down how her invention could drastically reduce energy waste worldwide. The audience was awestruck. Yet, sitting in the front row, Senator John Kennedy leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. He wasn't the type to be easily impressed, especially by numbers thrown around without accountability. He believed in the wisdom of hard questions, and Mai Lin was about to face them. When the applause quieted, Kennedy stood. "Young lady," he began in his thick Louisiana drawl, "that's a mighty fine speech you just gave. But tell me what makes you so sure your theory works outside a fancy computer model? Folks don't live in simulations. They live in the real world, out where lights go out, where jobs depend on coal and oil, and where math doesn't always pay the bills." The room grew tense. People shifted in their seats. Mai Lin, barely taller than the podium, looked up at Kennedy. Her eyes didn't flinch, and her voice carried steady, even warmth. "Senator," she replied, "the real world is exactly why I started this project. In my hometown in Hunan, blackouts were common. My grandmother cooked by candlelight while factories down the road wasted more energy than entire villages consumed. I don't just have models. I've built working prototypes, tested them in rural China, and seen the difference with my own eyes." A murmur rippled through the audience. Kennedy narrowed his gaze. "So you're saying you didn't just dream this up in some ivory tower? You've put boots on the ground?" "Yes," Mai Lin said firmly. "I know what it's like to see a child study under dim light, not because she's lazy but because electricity is scarce. My work isn't about math on paper, it's about giving that child light." That answer hit the room like thunder. Even Kennedy felt his composure shift. He had expected arrogance or overconfidence, but instead, Mai Lin spoke with humility rooted in lived experience. Still, Kennedy wasn't done. "Let me ask you this," he pressed. "You've got brains the size of Texas, no doubt about it. But brains alone don't solve human problems. Sometimes people don't want change, even when it's good for them. How do you plan to convince the coal miner in West Virginia, or the oil worker in Louisiana, that their future don't erase their livelihoods?" This time, Mai Lin paused, her brow furrowed, and for a moment, the weight of the question seemed to settle heavy on her young shoulders. Then she lifted her head, her eyes glistening not with fear but with conviction. "Senator, my father is a coal worker," she said quietly. "He gave his life to the mines so I could go to school. He still wakes every morning with dust in his lungs. I don't want to erase his work, or anyone's. I want to build on it." The miners, the oil workers, so they built the world we stand on. My inventions don't take away their legacy, they carry it forward. I want them to be part of the transition, not left behind. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. Kennedy's jaw tightened. He looked at her, then at the crowd. Something inside him shifted a recognition, perhaps, that wisdom didn't always come with age or office. He leaned on the podium, his voice softer now. "Well," he said slowly, "I reckon you just gave me one of the finest answers I've heard in a long time." The audience erupted in applause, not just for Mai Lin's brilliance, but for her humanity. People weren't just hearing numbers or technology, they were hearing hope. Afterward, Kennedy approached her backstage. "You know," he said with a small smile, "you remind me of why I got into public service, to fight for the folks who don't always have a voice. Keep doing what you're doing. Young lady, you're gonna change the world." Mai Lin looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "And Senator," she replied, "thank you for asking the hard questions. Without them, no answer can ever be strong enough." The story spread across the media like wildfire. Headlines captured the image of a seasoned senator humbled by a teenage genius, but those who were there knew it wasn't about winning or losing, it was about two different generations finding common ground and truth. And in that moment, everyone learned something. True intelligence isn't measured only by IQ or eloquence, but by the ability to connect knowledge with compassion, to marry progress with respect for tradition. What shocked everyone wasn't that Milan defeated John Kennedy in a debate. What shocked them was how she turned confrontation into connection, and challenge into understanding. By the end of the summit, the senator and the prodigy stood side by side, not as rivals, but as allies in the fight for a better future. The message left behind was clear. Wisdom comes in many forms, sometimes from the halls of power, and sometimes from a teenage girl with a 200+ IQ and the heart to match it.